So, good evening, boys. I warmly welcome you to another lecture of the Branches lecture series. So, I am Ayoob Pallie, and with me here today are my colleagues Charith, Ahangama, and Tharin Chandrasekara. So, Charith and Tharin.
Yeah, hi boys. My name is Charith Ahangama. I'm also a member of the senior committee of our club.
Hi boys, I'm Tharin Chandrasekara, and I'm also a senior member of your club, wwpsrc.
Yeah, so guys, today the topic we'll be talking about is invasive species. So we have a few contents which we like to share. So first of all, we'll be giving a general idea on what invasive species are. And after that, Tharin will be talking about invasive animals in depth with examples and a few of their characteristics. And then Charith will be talking about invasive plants and a few examples and characteristics individually and in common what they have. And after that, we've prepared a video for you guys, which will help you guys understand further more about invasive species and what are the actions we can take to avoid the damage caused to the economy and the environment by these invasive species. So moving to the first topic, invasive species. So why don't you guys share any of your thoughts regarding invasive species? Any of you all know what invasive species are?
Yes, I think.
Yeah, Rita.
Yeah, they're basically a non-native species that doesn't belong in an ecosystem, and then after they are basically an introduced species, and then since they don't have any natural predators in the area, they end up taking over the area, which is harmful to that habitat in general.
True. Yeah, that's a really good description. So how I learned about invasive species is what I did was I broke down the word invasive. So invasive in a sense invaders. So what invaders do is from one place to another space, they invade, right? So like they dominate the space of someone else and they take over. So when they do this, it has a huge economic loss and it affects the environment a lot. So invasive species are not indigenous. So like when they invade a space, even though they dominate, it's not their prominent location, right? So and they are non-native. So and another thing about invasive species is they spread really fast. So they adapt to the new area really quickly, which helps them to spread really fast, which is bad for us because we'll be having a huge economic and environmental damage. Yeah. So now moving on to the presentation. An invasive species is an organism that is not indigenous or native, like I mentioned, to a particular area. Invasive species can cause great economic and environmental harm to the new area. So this is why we have to prevent them, guys. We must take like further measures and prevent the damages they can cause to the economy and the environment. So to be invasive, a species must adapt to the new area easily. It must spread quickly. It must harm property, the economy, or the native plants and animals of the region. So again, guys, when you say the environment, so they affect the plants and animals of the region they have invaded as well. So which is really bad. So invasive species can cause many problems in an ecosystem and need to be controlled and eradicated in some incidents. So just like Ritiramali said, they cause many problems in an ecosystem. So yeah, so invasive species can be of two types, namely animals and plants. So we'll be discussing about the invasive species, animals and plants. So before we further move on, do you guys have any questions you guys want to ask regarding invasive species? So keep the examples for the next part of the lecture because Tharin, Aya, and Charita will be explaining them. Other than that, do you all have anything regarding invasive species you guys want to ask?
No idea.
Okay, so then we can move on to the next part of the lecture, which is invasive animals. So Tharin, you can take over.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So, boys, I will be talking about invasive animals. Invasive animals are animals that can cause many problems in an ecosystem and need to be controlled and eradicated in some instances. So I've given you all some examples, as you all see, the Asian carp, the European starling, small Indian mongoose, the European or the common rabbit, zebra mussel, cane toad, North Pacific sea star. And I've given you some pictures of them. So I will be talking about 4 of them briefly. So first of all, let's talk about the Asian carp. Asian carp refers to several carp species native to Asia, including grass carp, silver carp, bighead carp, black carp, and common carp. They are native to Eastern Russia and China as said, and have been introduced to North America and Europe as invasive species. Asian carp were brought over as food, part of pet trade, and for sport fishing. Why are they a problem? Why are Asian carps a problem? The main reason is they take food and habitat away from native fish and have been known to prey on the eggs of other fish species. And also, when carp eat, they stir up sediments and organisms from the lake and river beds, changing a clear lake into murky one and changing the type of species that can survive there. So do you all have any questions regarding Asian carp? Okay, so I'll move on. It's the European starling next. Okay, so the European starling is native to Europe, Asia, and Northern Africa, and has been introduced as an invasive species to North America, Southern Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. European starlings were brought over as a way of control pests and pets, and also by a group of people trying to introduce all the birds mentioned in the works of Shakespeare to North America. And so why are European starlings a problem? European starlings form huge flocks, many times with more than 3,000 birds. When a flock this size feeds on fruit and grains, it can cause serious damage to a farm. These birds are also aggressive, fighting with native species over food and territory. They will even take over other birds' nests, leaving native birds without a place to lay their eggs or raise their young. So that's it about European starling, boys. So do you all have anything to ask about European starling? Okay, so let's move on.
Yeah, just adding to that, Tharin. So like I said, boys, so where the danger comes is, so as you can see in the presentation, they will even take over other birds' nests, leaving native birds without a place to lay their eggs. So guys, this is what happens. So like they invade other spaces and like, they cause trouble to the native species as well. So this is why it is really important for us to research how we can prevent these types of incidences. Right. Yeah.
Yes,
So
thank you.
we can move to the next one. Yeah.
Okay, so next is small Indian mongoose, who is an invasive animal. Small Indian mongooses are native to Southeast Asia and has been introduced to Asia, Central America, and South America as invasive species. Small Indian mongooses were brought over for pest control for rats and snakes. So why are small Indian mongooses a problem? The main reason is small Indian mongooses are aggressive predators and they carry rabies and other human diseases with them. And also they are blamed for the decline of barwing rail, Jamaica petrel, who is an endangered animal, horsebill turtle, pink pigeon, and many other birds. You all see most of them are endangered. So do you have any questions regarding small Indian mongoose? Okay, then let's move on. Next is the European or the common rabbit. The European or the common rabbit is native to Southern Europe and North Africa and has been introduced as an invasive species to all continents except Antarctica and Asia. So rabbits were brought over as a source of food and as a way to remind people of the country they came from during the colonial times. So these European and common rabbits, why are they a problem? Rabbits reproduce very quickly. In 1 year, one female can have between 18 to 30 babies. Their population number grows so large and they eat so much that they have pushed native plant species to bring in certain areas. They also compete for food and shelter with native animals, causing a decline in the number of native species in the area. So that's about common or the European rabbit. So do you all have any questions to ask about native animals? Okay, then boys, I'll hand over it to Charith to talk about invasive plants. Thank you.
Yeah, hi boys. So I think Ayoob Pallie and Tharin gave you all a pretty good explanation on what invasive animals are and what invasive species are in a whole, right? So just like invasive animals, invasive plants are, by a simple definition, they're known as alien species that show a tendency to spread out of control, right? The label invasive is generally reserved for plants that have been introduced from other regions and spread like wildfire in their new habitats. So we have a few examples of invasive plants. So yeah, bittersweets, wisteria, English ivy, ajuga, barberry, and tana. So those are a few examples, and we have added a few photographs of a few of those plants as well. So as you all can see, those look very attractive, but as we talk in depth about these plants, you will see that even though they look attractive, they aren't the best for the ecosystem. Yeah, so let's move on. Yeah, Madhu. So the first example that we chose to talk in depth is the lantana. So lantana is a broadleaf evergreen shrub native to tropical areas, and it is a notable invasive in Florida and Georgia and across the south all the way to California. But it poses no danger in colder climates north of zone 9. Where it is often used in hanging baskets. In warm zones, however, can easily escape gardens and naturalize in dangerous profusion. So as you can see, in controlled areas, these plants are used as, decorative flowers and so on. So talk a bit more about lantana. So like I said, they are native to tropical regions of America and Africa, and it exists as an introduced species in numerous areas, especially in Australia and Pacific region and the south and northeastern part of India. So they have a width of about 16 to 4 feet, 16 inches to 4 feet. And so the flowers come in different colors, but most common colors are purple, red, orange, white, pink, and yellow. So lantanas work well as a standalone plant, right? But if you want a companion, it works well with a sun-loving variety. And lantanas prefer rich and well-draining soil, and that is slightly acidic. So have any of you all had any personal experience with such a plant, or do you all have any knowledge on this that you would like to add? Okay, Mali, seems not. So moving on. The next example that we choose for you all is ajuga. So it is actually a mat-forming plant, which is also known as bugle-weed, is another popular ground cover that can turn thuggish. Because ajuga has pleasing purple blossoms and the ability to suppress weeds, it is often planted in shady areas as a ground cover. Many homeowners, though, come to despise it when it begins to take over a garden or lawn. So that's what invasive species in a whole are, right? When you introduce it to a new area, it would just take over and it would just basically consume whatever it is around it, right? So that is why it hurts the ecosystem that is in place. So ajuga is especially problematic in warmer climates where there is no winter frost to kill the plants back annually. So, like I said, ajuga is also known as bugle wheat, but it is also known as ground pine, carpet bugle, or just simply bugle. It is actually from the mint family of Lamiaceae. I hope I got that right. And most species are native to Europe, Asia, and Africa, but there are a few species in southeastern Australia as well. The leaves grow up to about 2 to 3 inches wide, where there is, good sun, and it has a height of under 6 inches. And the overall width of the plant is from 6 to 18 inches wide. And just like the lantana, the flowers come in a wide variety of colors, but the most common colors are blue, purple, white, and pink. Yes, so Malli, again, do any of you all have anything to add, or do you all have any questions regarding what we have spoken so far? Yes, okay, I'll take that as a no. Okay, so the last example on invasive plants that we have for you all is the butterfly bush. So as you can see, it is a very attractive flower, just like the previous plants that we talked about. So the butterfly bush is actually among the worst invasive in the Pacific Northwest, where growing conditions resembles its native habitat. It's also an invasive problem in areas of the southeast. In areas colder than zone 6, it is less problematic. Since the plant dies back to the ground each winter, an alternative plant to grow for attracting butterflies is butterfly wheat. Butterfly bush is so named because it attracts butterflies, but to humans, the plant is somewhat unpleasant in odor. So, like we said, Malli, so some plants do well in warmer climates, whereas some plants do well in much colder climates. So let's say this originates from a colder climate, right? So if you take this back to such a climate, then naturally it will just take over, right? So that is why it causes a bigger damage than it would in a different a much different area with different let's say it's warm or something, then the impact of that invasive plant would be much different to where it is now, right? So to talk a bit more about butterfly bush, it grows to up about 15 feet, and so unless there is enough rain, if there is no rainfall, about an inch of water a week is enough for this plant to grow. Okay, that's perfect enough. And it has this ability to attract butterflies and beneficial insects. So that is what's unique about butterfly bush. So yeah, that is actually it. So Malil, you all can see these plants, they look very attractive. They have very vibrant flowers and stuff, right? But when you actually do some research on these things, you see that they are very harmful to the ecosystem that is in place, and that it also affects the livelihood of a lot of farmers and lots of other people, and it does quite directly affect the economy as well. So it is very important that we. Sorry, Mali.
How does it harm the environment?
So Mali, yeah, like we said, right? So what happens is these plants, they are not native to the area that they are in. So they are introduced to new places, right? So when that happens, they would just consume the other plants that are native to that area, and these plants would take over, resulting, it would have a very negative impact on the ecosystem on that particular area, right? So that is why it has a negative impact, and that's what happens when you introduce invasive plants to new places. Now since these plants are very attractive, you see a lot of people using these plants as for decorative stuff. So even when you do that, there are certain precautions and steps that you need to take in order to make sure that they don't go out of control. right? So we'll actually be talking about those steps that we can take in order to minimize the damage. So yeah, I hope you all learned something new. And do you all have any questions on invasive plants or anything you all like to add?
No.
Okay, Maldi. So yeah, I hand it over to you. So yeah.
Yeah. So just adding to what Charitaya said. So yeah, Mali. So like, let's take an example. So you have something and someone invades it, right? So then you have something less, right? So when you are native to something and when it belongs to you, like that's what you have to survive. So like when someone else takes that from you, then you have nothing to survive, right? So that's how invasive species also work. So basically when they spread, they dominate and spread. So they take everything from what some other plant has to survive and then they dominate. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on, we have prepared a video for you all. So hopefully you guys enjoy this video and gain some knowledge through it. So guys, pay close attention to this video because I have a few questions coming up as well after the video. So yeah, make sure you guys watch the video thoroughly. And yeah, I'll play the video. Just tell me if you guys can hear it and if it's visible for you. Yeah, so guys, can you all hear the audio?
Rapidly growing,
Yeah.
Yes, I.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
growing, adapting, they conquer, jeopardizing local economies, threatening human health, and devastating entire ecosystems.
As whole rows of cherished landmarks are condemned, brought home to town-dwelling citizens are the rigid precautions being taken by the Department of Agriculture to save this tree from extinction.
Invasive species are non-native organisms that cause considerable damage when introduced to a new area. These species compete with native wildlife for resources and thrive at the expense of the local ecosystem. The introduction of invasive species is often associated with human activity. Boats that travel between different bodies of water can carry hitchhikers, such as the zebra mussel. One of the most notorious invasive species in the United States, these rapidly reproducing mussels clog pipes and overtake beaches in the Great Lakes. Some invasive species, however, are introduced intentionally. In the early 20th century, cane toads were brought to Australia as a form of pest control. Today, these poisonous amphibians number in the millions and have caused a decline in native predators on the island. It's not just animals. Bacteria, fungi, and plants can also become invasive. Brought to South Africa in the 19th century, the black wattle is an invasive tree often used for timber and firewood. This beautiful tree and other thirsty invasives are depleting the country's already record-low water supply. Because of their impact on human health, ecosystems, and infrastructure, invasive species cost the global economy over $1 trillion each year. Many measures can be taken to help limit the spread of invasive species, but the most effective method is prevention. By carefully cleaning boats before transferring between different bodies of water, not releasing exotic pets into the wild, and planting gardens with native species, we can help prevent the spread of invasive organisms. Every living thing has evolved to play a specialized role within their ecosystem. In the ultimate balancing act, even one invasive species can drastically tilt the scales. If if we stay mindful of our role in the spread of these organisms, we can prevent invasions before it is too late.
Yeah. So, boys, did you all watch the video?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I am.
Okay. So, yeah, give me a second. Yeah. Okay. So, okay. So, I have a few questions to ask you guys. So, if you all watch the video closely, you guys should be able to answer this. So, you guys can hear me, right?
Yeah. Yes, I.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm gonna ask you guys. So, they spoke about a step they took to control the spread of invasive species. So, it's pretty simple. Can anyone answer? What was the step? What was the step they took? Anyone? Ritira?
Cleaning the boats after they go fishing.
Correct. Okay, that's also step they
I
took.
thought not,
Anything else?
not releasing the exotic pets and
pets to the environment.
releasing native species into your backyards, releasing native species, then like not releasing any sort of exotic pets that you have that are from any other countries.
Yeah. Yeah. True. So, any other ideas you guys want to share? Like, what you guys think could prevent the spread of invasive species? Yeah, any of you guys can unmute and just share your idea.
Educate people about the dangers caused by invasive species.
True. So we should like spread awareness, right? That's what you're saying, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, true. So that also can prevent. Yeah. Okay, so I'll just share what I think we can do. So, yeah. So once again, like they said, we can prevent, right? So we should do prevention. So it's a pretty cost-effective method. Okay, no. So I'll start off from first. So first, what we have to do is we should research. So after we like research and like get to know like all their characteristics, like today we explained like one by one like a few examples like of their characteristics, right? So after we like get to know what are their characteristics, we can easily prevent them. We can like get to know what are their weaknesses and use it to our advantage. So that's a method of prevention as well. So once again, like you guys told, we should be like careful like that we don't spread them. Like they can automatically get spread as well, but like we should make sure that we don't spread them. And again, like Charith mentioned earlier, like they may be attractive. So make sure like before you all like plant something for decorations or anything, that you all go through like what are the disadvantages and harmful effects they cause to the ecosystem and the economy. So yeah, just make sure that you guys learn these characteristics before you all do anything which could actually lead to a huge impact. So yeah, make sure that we don't spread them. So EDRR. So EDRR is early detection, rapid response. So this what they do is mainly so like this is done by a team of like invasive managers. So this tactic is actually they study, like I said earlier, invasive species and they like predict where they're going to invade next. So when they do this, we can like prevent it fully. Like we can get rid of the harmful effects fully, completely if we follow the EDRR method. Right, so now, do you guys have any questions on like the ideas I shared? Was there anything unclear?
No.
Okay, so then I'll move on to the presentation. So first technique is prevention. Prevention is one of the most cost-effective and successful tactics of invasive species management of the National Park Service user. So once again, guys, maybe it's cost-effective, but then again, guys, even though this would cost us a bit to take prevention, it's actually a benefit more than just not taking. So can you guys see this picture right here? Was it blocked? Yeah, can you guys see this picture? Which my mouse is on the cursor? Boys.
Yeah.
side.
Yeah, okay. So you can see the
Yes,
left side and the right side, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what they have done to prevent. They put a fence. So this is what happened, like because of the invasive species. So if they haven't taken any prevention or any precaution methods, they would have lost all their crops. So it's a huge environmental loss and an economic loss, because the farmer who grows these crops would have lost his entire benefits for the whole month. So that's why it's really important for us to take precaution for this. Okay, so going back, prevention requires us to understand how invasive animals are being moved around and how we can stop them. Once again, like I told you guys, we should research and get to know like all the characteristics of those animals or invasive plants. So that way we can find out their weakness and we can eradicate them with ease. In fact, it's everyone's responsibility to ensure that they aren't spreading invasive species. Like I mentioned again earlier, guys, so it's our duty that we don't spread them. So we should, like another Mali explained, we should like raise awareness about this situation. So even in the previous premier lecture, the lecturer said about this and he gave us a few tips as well. So guys, make sure you guys join these sessions as well, because it would help you all as well to gain knowledge. So managing invasive animals. At Pinnacles National Park in California, managers installed a fence to keep feral hogs out of a grassy field. On the right, you can see how hogs damage the vegetation. Staff in parks use a variety of tactics to protect national parks from the effect of invasive animals. So that's what I showed you guys earlier about the picture. So moving on, early detection, rapid response, EDRR. So this is what I explained earlier as well. EDRR is a technical term you often used by invasive species managers. This tactic requires regular monitoring of sites where invasive species may next show up. If an invasive species is detected, a pre-planned response goes into action to remove the species while there are still only a few individuals. So yeah, so these are the prevention types I felt like would be useful for you guys to know as well. So since you guys shared your thoughts as well, do you guys have any questions regarding the whole lecture? What invasive species are, invasive animals, invasive plants, anything? Boys, you all have any questions?
Are there any invasive plants in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, there are many invasive plants in Sri Lanka. So like I said, we can't completely control the situation, Mali. Obviously, like in every country, there will be a few invasive plants and animals, because like that happens according to the nature. But we can take steps to prevent them. So once again, Mali, like if you raise awareness, like I don't think in Sri Lanka there is much awareness regarding invasive species. So it's our duty again to like raise awareness and make sure that we are not spreading the invasive species. Hopefully that answered your question, Mali.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So any other questions?
No.
Yeah, so again, lantana is a Sri Lankan plant, invasive plant. Just to answer your question again. Yeah, so is anyone going to ask another question?
No,
Okay. Okay, so then boys, that should wrap up today's lecture. Tharin and Charith, do you all have anything to add?
No, boys. Anyway, thank you for joining, boys.
Yeah, nothing really from my side. It's just that, even we didn't have a lot of knowledge on invasive species before we actually did some research on these matters. But see, when you look at a plant that is, very attractive and very vibrant, you don't really think that it causes a lot of damage to people's livelihoods as well as the ecosystem, right? So things aren't always as they seem. So next time, make sure that you do some research before you go ahead and, buy a plant I mean, it might look decorative and all, but just to make sure, just do some research. Now, invasive plants, they are a really good example for why you should do some research before you're getting into something, right? So just keep that in mind. And yeah, thank you for joining. I hope you all learned something new.